New Year's Eve, the most exclusive restaurant in Manhattan. And Rachel Carter, billionaire CEO, face of Fortune's cover 3 times running, was being told there was no table for her. "I'm sorry, ma'am, we're fully booked." Around her, champagne glasses clinked, couples embraced, families laughed. Everyone had somewhere to be someone to hold. She turned toward the exit when a movement caught her eye. A black man at a corner table near the window rose from his seat. Beside him, a little girl with braided hair looked up. He met Rachel's gaze and waved her over. A stranger, inviting her to stay. 3 hours earlier, Rachel Carter had been on a conference call with investors in Singapore, London, and Sao Paulo simultaneously. She had closed a $2 billion acquisition without raising her voice. Her name commanded respect in boardrooms across 4 continents. Now she stood in the lobby of La Maison Elise, Manhattan's most coveted dining destination, being told that none of that mattered. "Perhaps you didn't hear me," Rachel said, keeping her voice measured. "I'll pay triple the price. 4 times. Name your number." The maitre d', a slender man with silver temples and an apologetic smile, shook his head. "I understand, Ms. Carter, and I truly wish I could accommodate you, but every table is reserved. It's New Year's Eve." She knew that. Of course she knew that. What she hadn't anticipated was that the restaurant where she'd hosted countless business dinners, where the staff knew her preferences down to the exact temperature of her sparkling water, would have no room for her on the one night she came alone. Her assistant Rachel had left early to catch a flight home to Chicago. Her driver had requested the holiday off weeks ago, and Rachel had approved it without thinking. She had a penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, a wine collection worth more than most people's homes, and not a single person expecting her anywhere. So she had driven herself here. For the first time in years, she had gotten behind the wheel of her own car, a sleek black Mercedes she barely remembered purchasing, and navigated through holiday traffic like any ordinary person. She had told herself it was an adventure, a change of pace. She had not told herself it was loneliness. That word did not exist in her vocabulary. "I see," Rachel said to the maitre d'. Her reflection stared back at her from the polished marble walls. Immaculate makeup, a charcoal cashmere coat that cost more than most monthly salaries, perfect posture. "Thank you for your time." She turned and walked toward the exit, her heels clicking against the floor with measured precision. Around her, the restaurant hummed with life. A couple in their 60s held hands across a candlelit table. A young family with 2 children laughed over shared plates of pasta. A group of friends raised glasses in a toast, their faces bright with the promise of midnight. She was surrounded by warmth, yet utterly alone. The thought surfaced unbidden, and Rachel pushed it down with practiced efficiency. She had built a company from nothing. She had graced the cover of Forbes, Fortune, and Time. She answered to no one, needed no one. And yet, when she reached the door, she allowed herself one final glance back. A mistake. Because that was when she saw him. Carlos Brooks had not planned to come here tonight. 3 years ago, this restaurant had been his and Naomi's place. Not for regular dinners, they couldn't afford that, but for the moments that mattered. Their 5th anniversary. The night they found out she was pregnant with Sophia. New Year's Eve, when they would dress up, splurge on the tasting menu, and pretend for one evening that they were the kind of people who did this all the time. The last time they'd been here together, Naomi had been in remission. They had celebrated with champagne and hope, believing the worst was behind them. 4 months later, she was gone. He had avoided this place ever since. Too many ghosts, too much of her in every corner. But Sophia had asked. His 7-year-old daughter, who remembered her mother only in fragments, a laugh, a lullaby. The smell of lavender lotion, had looked up at him last week with those big brown eyes and said, "Daddy, can we go to Mommy's special restaurant so she knows we still remember?" How could he say no? So here they were, seated at a corner table near the window, the same spot where he and Naomi had always sat. Sophia wore her favorite purple dress, the one with tiny silver stars. In her lap, she held a drawing she'd made that afternoon, 3 stick figures holding hands. Carlos on the left, Sophia in the middle, and Naomi floating on a cloud above them, a halo of yellow crayon around her head. "Daddy, look," Sophia said, pointing across the room. "That lady is sad." Carlos followed his daughter's gaze. Near the entrance, a woman in an expensive coat was speaking with the maitre d'. Even from a distance, he could read the tension in her shoulders, the careful control in her expression. He recognized her vaguely, one of those faces you saw on magazine covers at the grocery store checkout. "Maybe she's just tired, sweetheart." Sophia shook her head, her braids swinging. "No, she's sad. Like the kind of sad where you smile but your eyes don't." Carlos watched the woman turn and walk toward the door. Her posture was perfect, her stride confident, but Sophia was right. There was something hollow in the way she moved, something familiar. He knew that walk. He'd perfected it himself in the months after Naomi died. The appearance of composure when everything inside was crumbling. "She doesn't have anyone," Sophia said softly. "Nobody's waiting for her." The words hit Carlos harder than they should have. He looked at the empty chair beside him, the one he still couldn't bring himself to fill, and then back at the woman retreating toward the cold Manhattan night. Naomi would have done something. His wife had never been able to walk past someone in need without stopping. She used to joke that her heart had no off switch. Before he could overthink it, Carlos stood up. Rachel's hand was on the door when she heard it, a small voice cutting through the ambient noise. "Excuse me, lady." She turned. The little girl with braided hair was waving at her, standing on her chair to be seen above the crowd. Beside her, the man Rachel had noticed earlier was on his feet, one hand resting gently on his daughter's shoulder. "We have an extra chair," the girl called out. "You can sit with us." The maitre d' looked mortified. "Ms. Carter, I'm so sorry. I can ask them to—" "No," Rachel heard herself say. "It's fine." She didn't know why she said it. Every instinct told her to decline gracefully and leave. She was Rachel Carter. She did not accept charity from strangers. She did not sit at other people's tables like some lost soul in need of rescue. But the little girl was still smiling at her. And the man, her father, clearly had an expression that held no pity. No recognition of who Rachel was or what she was worth. Just a quiet steadiness, as if he understood something about her that she hadn't said aloud. She walked toward their table. "I'm Carlos," the man said, extending his hand. His grip was warm and firm. "This is my daughter, Sophia." "I'm 7, Sophia announced, "and you're really pretty. Are you a princess?" Despite herself, Rachel felt her lips curve into something approaching a smile. "No, I'm not a princess." "That's okay. Princesses are boring anyway. They just wait in towers. You look like someone who does stuff." Carlos pulled out the chair across from him. "Please, sit." Rachel hesitated. She could still leave. She could thank them politely, make an excuse, and walk out into the night where no one would see her vulnerability. She could go home to her empty penthouse and pour herself a glass of wine and pretend this evening never happened. Or she could sit down. She thought of the conference call earlier, the billions of dollars, the investors hanging on her every word. She thought of her assistant flying home to a family that missed her, her driver spending the holiday with people who loved him. She thought of every New Year's Eve for the past decade spent at parties where everyone wanted something from her, where she was never just Rachel, but always the CEO, the billionaire, the brand. She sat down. "Thank you," she said. The words felt strange in her mouth. When was the last time she had thanked someone and truly meant it? Sophia beamed. Carlos nodded, then turned to flag down a waiter. "Another menu, please." And just like that, Rachel Carter, who controlled boardrooms and commanded empires, found herself at a tiny table with a stranger and his 7-year-old daughter with no agenda, no power, no role to play. For the first time in longer than she could remember, she had no idea what came next. The realization should have terrified her. Instead, something in her chest loosened. Just a little, just enough to breathe. The dinner that followed was unlike anything Rachel had experienced in years. She was accustomed to meals as transactions. Every